At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings you sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorum Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to award-winning Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is the podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. We are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience. And today we bring you the fourth entry into our series on the lost teams of the NBA. In this occasional series, we cover the teams that once played in the NBA, but no longer exist. In total, there were 15 teams that played in the NBA and then went out of business and folded their operations. And they all folded for pretty much the same reason. They were all losing so much money that they could not keep going and fielding a team. The NBA of the 1940s and early 1950s was not a solid financial endeavor. The league nearly collapsed several times in those first 10 years of existence. There were a lot of things that had to go their way for them to now become a multi-billion-dollar global sports league. Making money in those early days was a mountainous challenge. So, let us get started with our first team for today. That team is the Baltimore Bullets. Now, just to be clear, this team has nothing to do with the Washington Bullets, who now call themselves the Washington Wizards. These are two completely different teams. The only connection is that when the current team named itself the Bullets in 1963, they did so to honor the original Bullets team that had gone out of business. Now, the old Baltimore Bullets were not even supposed to ever be in the NBA to begin with. They were a last-minute addition to the league before the league started their second season of existence in the autumn of 1947. You see, during that first year of the NBA, the league had 11 teams. However, 4 of them went out of business after that first year, leaving the league with just 7 teams. The NBA felt that they needed to add a team to at least have 8 teams for good competition. Having an even number of teams also helped with scheduling and matchups. With an even number, the league could have all 8 teams playing Friday nights and Saturday nights. So, the league called on the Baltimore Bullets, who already existed as part of the American Basketball League, or ABL, since 1944. The ABL was a second-tier league based primarily on the East Coast. That league had been operating for a number of years before the NBA was even created. So basically, the NBA asked the Bullets to jump from the ABL to the NBA, and that was a coup of sorts. It is considered a bit underhanded for a league to steal a team away from another league, but that's exactly what happened. The NBA's primary sales pitch was that the Bullets might make more money by playing in larger arenas that they could find in the NBA, like Madison Square Garden and the Boston Garden, 2 of the largest arenas in the United States at the time. So, the Baltimore Bullets jumped leagues and joined the NBA. Now, at the time, many thought that the Bullets would probably finish dead last since they were coming from a lower league. It would be like a G League team joining the NBA with its G League roster. I mean, no offense to the G League, but if you were to be honest about it, a G League team would have a hard time competing on the same level with regular NBA teams. Anyway, the Baltimore Bullets joined the NBA, and lo and behold, they won the whole championship in their very first year. In the finals, they defeated the defending champions, the Philadelphia Warriors, 4-2. Now, the Bullets were led by player-coach Buddy Jeannette. By the way, Jeannette is in the Hall of Fame as a player. The guy could truly fill it up, but he coached a very balanced team. They had 5 guys on the team that averaged between 10 and 12 points per game. That way, the defense could not focus on just one player as everyone shared the scoring load. Their leading scorer that season was a player named Cleggie Hermsen, who averaged 12 points per game. Now, keep in mind that this was the 1940s when the entire team only averaged 74 points per game. However, the Bullets could not duplicate that success from their first year in the NBA. They played a total of 7 seasons in the NBA, and that first year was their only winning season that they had as a member of the league. They followed that championship season with 6 straight losing seasons, and then it became financially impossible to keep going. The team was shut down at the end of the 1954 season. Now, if you want to hear a more complete story about the Bullets, go back and check out episode 74, where I go into more detail on the only NBA champion that no longer exists. Now, that is the one thing that makes the Baltimore Bullets stand out from the other 14 teams that went out of business. They're the only ones who had a championship. Well, this is a good place to take a break, and I'll be right back with 2 more teams that no longer exist from the history of the NBA.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, sports history fans. I'm Ross from the podcast Pigskin Tales. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment. But first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by handwriting relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched into words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. My favorite on the site is Bryce Harper 2021 MVP year. Because I'm a big stats guy, I think that's one of the coolest things ever. Check it out. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved one this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those who you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
Welcome back to the show, and let us continue with another entry from our NBA Teams That No Longer Exist series. The next team is the Indianapolis Olympians. Now, this team is not to be confused with the Indianapolis Jets, a team that we covered back in part 3 of this series. However, the Indianapolis Olympians began playing the very next year after the Jets went out of business. So, if you were a fan from Indianapolis back then, it might have seemed that the team simply changed its name, but that is not the case. The Jets completely folded at the end of the 1949 season, and a brand new team took their place in the autumn of that same year. The reason that the NBA put a team in the same city as a team that just went out of business is that they felt that Indianapolis had a lot of potential as a professional basketball city. I mean, the state of Indiana loves basketball more than life itself, so it would make sense to have a team there. Basketball is easily the most popular sport in the state of Indiana, so the Olympians were a bit of a gimmick when the team was put together. The NBA wanted to capitalize on the success of the 1948 Olympic basketball team that had won the gold medal at the London Olympics. The idea was to take the entire Olympic roster and bring them into the NBA as their own professional team. I mean, in one sense, that actually sounds kind of exciting. That is why the team was called the Olympians, because they had just won the gold medal at the Olympics. However, in the end, only 3 members of that Olympic team became part of the Olympians roster: Cliff Barker, Ralph Beard, and Alex Groza. All 3 of them were also teammates at the University of Kentucky, where they all played for Adolph Rupp. Now, these 3 would become the faces of the new NBA team in Indianapolis. And what's more, the players would also be the co-owners of the team, and they would share in whatever profits the team would make. Now, that was the closing pitch when the NBA approached them about forming a new team out of the Olympic roster. This is the only time in NBA history where the players of the team were also the owners of the team. It cannot happen today, according to league rules. The 3 guys from Kentucky pulled in a bunch of their old Kentucky teammates to join the team. In total, the team had 6 players from the University of Kentucky. The team was made up of all rookies and 1 second-year player, and that 1 second-year player was Bruce Hale from Santa Clara University, where I went to school. He later became a head coach and the father-in-law of Rick Barry. Now, to start the season, Cliff Barker would serve as the player coach of the team. So, with a bunch of players from Kentucky and a coach who was also from Kentucky, the team just basically ran their old Kentucky offense and defense that they learned from Adolph Rupp. And they had to teach it to the other guys. But that was actually not that much of a problem, since most of the non-Kentucky guys were from the same conference as Kentucky and had played against them and were very familiar with their offense and defense. The team had a lot of success, finishing in first place in their division with a record of 39-25, but they got knocked out of the divisional finals by the Anderson Packers. The Olympians had trouble duplicating the success of that first season in the NBA. The following year, they had a losing season and got knocked out of the playoffs in the first round. But then they really received a knockout punch. 2 of their best players and former Olympic team players, Ralph Beard and Alex Groza, were arrested for point shaving back when they played for Kentucky. They were subsequently banned for life from the NBA. Both Beard and Groza had only played 2 years in the NBA, but both were already 2-time All-Stars. They were both on their way to incredible NBA careers, but their crimes caught up with them. And yes, I do mean crimes. Point shaving is a federal crime in the United States, as it is in most countries. The authorities had proof that the 2 men took money from gamblers in exchange for manipulating the scores of several Kentucky games to benefit the gamblers who were also betting on those games. And this was devastating to the Olympians. Cliff Barker, who had been the player coach, resigned the coaching role so that he could pull in a full-time coach. Now, Barker stayed on the team as a player, but things just got worse and worse for the Olympians. They began losing even more and were hemorrhaging money. These players and co-owners of the team could not keep it going. They had to shut down the team. So, after just 4 seasons, the Indianapolis Olympians folded operations, and this was at the end of the 1953 season. Now, our last team for today is the Anderson Packers, and they were based in Anderson, Indiana, and joined the NBA in the autumn of 1949. Now, this seemed odd to me because that's the same year that the Olympians started playing in the NBA. I mean, Anderson is practically a suburb of Indianapolis. In fact, today, you could drive from Anderson to the center of downtown Indianapolis in around 50 minutes. Now, why would the NBA put 2 brand new teams only an hour away from each other in Indiana? Well, the thing is that the NBA did not put the Packers in Anderson. The team was already there. They had been playing in a different league called the NBL since 1946, and they were founded by John Duffy, who was the owner of a meat packing company in Anderson. That is why the team was called the Packers. They were directly connected to a meat packing company. Now, the Anderson Packers were led in scoring by Frankie Bryan with 17 points a game. The team then went 37-27 and made it to the semifinals before getting knocked out of the playoffs by the Minneapolis Lakers. But after that one season, the Packers disappeared. Now, in this case, they did not shut down operations like every other team that disappeared from the NBA. The owner of the Packers moved them out of the NBA and into a brand new league called the National Professional Basketball League, or NPBL. It was a brand new league that was trying to challenge the NBA as the premier basketball league in the United States. The owners of the Packers thought that they could make more money and that in the long run, the NPBL would be the more successful league. Unfortunately, they thought wrong. The entire NPBL folded after just one season, and all of its teams disappeared. The top players in the NPBL ended up back on NBA rosters the following season. The Anderson Packers were one of those teams that only lasted one season in the NBA and then rode off into the sunset. Well, that is it for today. We covered the Baltimore Bullets, the Indianapolis Olympians, and the Anderson Packers. So join us next time when we cover the story of the rivalry between the two best big men of the 1940s, George Mikan and Bob Curlin. These two men were easily the two most skilled giants that basketball had ever seen back then. Had television existed the way we think of it today, the sports channels would have been hyping up this matchup as a must-see sporting event. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of Sports Yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts, and check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. There you will find shorter historical posts as well as comments and discussion starters on today's game. I'll also announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we continue to mine the history of basketball for more great stories from the past. Take care and see you soon.